When we think of wartime history, our minds often jump to the grand scale of events. We picture epic battles, turning points decided by generals, and the powerful machinery of conflict, tanks, planes, and great warships. These are the stories that fill our textbooks and documentaries. Yet, the reality of war for the individual soldier was often defined by something much smaller and more immediate. It was a daily struggle for survival against the elements, hunger, and disease. The difference between life and death could depend not on a new type of cannon, but on the ability to stay warm on a freezing night or to heat a simple meal. This is where the true, unsung heroes of the trenches come into play. The small, overlooked inventions, born from desperation and cleverness. These innovations weren't designed in high-tech laboratories or ordered by top brass. Instead, they were created on the spot by ordinary soldiers, using whatever they could find. They were practical solutions to immediate problems. Think of the periscope rifle, a simple arrangement of mirrors and wood that allowed a soldier to see and shoot over the trench parapet without exposing his head to enemy fire. Or consider the countless ways soldiers modified their uniforms and equipment to better withstand mud, rain, and cold. These small acts of ingenuity were fundamental to daily existence. They reveal a side of war that is less about grand strategy and more about human resilience and the relentless drive to endure another day. Among the most vital yet forgotten of these innovations was the creation of makeshift fuel. In the desolate landscapes of the front lines, traditional fuel like wood or coal was often scarce, wet, or too dangerous to use. A large, smoky fire would instantly give away a position to enemy artillery or snipers, making a simple act, like boiling water, a deadly gamble. Soldiers needed a source of heat that was small, efficient, and discreet. The answer came from the very waste they produced each day. They learned to transform rubbish into a reliable source of warmth and energy, a testament to their ability to adapt and overcome seemingly impossible circumstances. This brings us to the humble grease cake or field brick. It sounds unglamorous, and it certainly was. But for a soldier shivering in a waterlogged dugout or facing a cold tin of rations, this simple block of compressed waste was a lifeline. It was a smokeless, slow-burning fuel source that could be carried in a pocket and used to brew a life-giving cup of tea or heat a meager stew. This small do-it-yourself invention represents the essence of frontline resourcefulness. It demonstrates how, in the face of immense hardship, the most powerful tool a soldier possessed was often their own ingenuity, turning discarded scraps into the very means of survival. The need for a reliable, safe source of fire was an obsession for soldiers on the front lines, especially during the static trench warfare of World War I. Imagine the conditions: endless days and nights spent in damp, cold trenches, often knee-deep in mud. The biting cold was a constant enemy, leading to frostbite, trench foot, and a relentless drain on morale. Beyond warmth, fire was essential for basic health. It was the only way to make water safe to drink by boiling it, killing the deadly bacteria that thrived in the contaminated environment. It was also the only way to heat the monotonous tinned rations, turning a cold lump of bully beef into a hot, comforting meal that felt like a small piece of home. Finding fuel, however, was a perilous task. The battlefields were stripped bare of trees, the wood splintered and churned into mud by relentless artillery bombardments. Any available timber was often soaking wet and would produce thick, telltale smoke when burned. A visible fire was like a beacon to the enemy. The smoke and light could draw sniper fire or, even worse, an artillery barrage. Soldiers quickly learned that a traditional campfire was a luxury they could not afford. They needed something that could burn with a low flame and minimal smoke, something portable and efficient enough to be used in the cramped, confined space of a dugout without suffocating them or giving away their position. The solution emerged organically, a piece of soldierly folk wisdom passed from veteran to new recruit. They looked at the waste around them, not as rubbish, but as raw material. Every day, the army produced vast quantities of refuse, old newspapers and letters from home, cardboard ration boxes, wax from candles, and, most importantly, leftover cooking grease and fat skimmed from stews. Individually, these items were useless for fuel. Paper burned too quickly, and grease was messy and difficult to ignite. But soldiers discovered that by combining them, they could create something remarkably effective. This was the birth of the grease cake. The principle behind these field bricks was simple, yet brilliant. The paper and cardboard provided the structure, acting like a wick in a candle. The grease and wax soaked into the paper fibers, provided the dense, energy-rich fuel. When combined and compressed, they created a solid block that would burn for a surprisingly long time with a steady, consistent heat. It produced very little smoke, making it ideal for discreet use. This simple innovation wasn't an official piece of kit. It was a grassroots solution that spread through the ranks because it worked. It was a perfect example of turning a problem, the lack of fuel and the abundance of waste, into a life-saving solution. The process of making a grease cake was straightforward, requiring no special tools, only patience and a bit of scrounging. It was a task soldiers could perform during lulls in the fighting, a constructive way to pass the time while creating something essential for their well-being. The first step was gathering the materials. Soldiers would collect any and all available paper, old newspapers, letters, cardboard packaging from their rations, and even empty cement bags. This paper was then torn into small strips or shredded into a pulp. The goal was to break it down so it could easily absorb the fatty fuel source that would give the brick its power. Next, the paper needed to be soaked. The soldiers would place the shredded paper into a container, an empty tin can was perfect for this, and add water to turn it into a thick, mushy slurry. This pulping process was crucial, as it broke down the paper fibers and created a malleable substance that could be molded into a dense block. Once the paper was thoroughly saturated and had the consistency of wet oatmeal, the excess water was squeezed out. The resulting damp paper pulp was now ready for the most important ingredient, the one that would provide the long-lasting burn soldiers so desperately needed for their small, hidden stoves. The energy component was grease. This was salvaged from cooking, the fatty drippings from bacon or the layer of fat that would congeal on top of a cold stew. Melted-down candle stubs were also a prized addition, as the wax helped the brick hold its shape and burn more evenly. The hot, liquid grease and wax were poured into the paper pulp. The soldiers would then thoroughly mix the concoction together with a stick or their hands, ensuring that every fiber of paper was completely saturated with the fatty, calorie-rich fuel. The mixture would look like a dirty, greasy lump, but everyone knew the value of what they were creating. The final step was to form the brick and let it dry. The greasy pulp was packed tightly into a mold, often another empty food tin, to compress it into a dense, solid block. Compressing it was key as it squeezed out any remaining water and ensured there were no air pockets, which would make it burn too quickly. Once formed, the damp, heavy brick was removed from the mold and set aside to dry. This could take days or even weeks depending on the conditions. Soldiers would leave them in a dry spot in their dugout or near a gentle heat source. The end result was a hard, lightweight, and waterproof block of fuel, a field brick, ready to be tucked into a pocket and used when it was needed most. The practical advantages of the grease cake cannot be overstated. They were perfectly suited to the grim realities of trench life. Their most important feature was their low smoke, low light burn. Unlike a wood fire, which would send a plume of smoke into the sky, a grease cake smoldered with a small, steady flame that was nearly invisible from a distance, especially at night. This stealth was a matter of life and death. It allowed a small group of soldiers to huddle around a Tommy cooker, a small, portable stove, in the relative safety of their dugout, boiling a canteen of water for tea or warming their hands without broadcasting their location to an enemy observer looking for targets. Beyond safety, these fuel bricks offered reliability and efficiency. A single well-made grease cake could burn consistently for an hour or more, providing a sustained source of heat from a very small package. This was far more efficient than trying to burn damp twigs or scraps of wood, which would flare up and die down unpredictably. The dense mixture of grease and paper provided a high energy output, meaning a small brick could do the work of a much larger bundle of conventional fuel. This portability was essential for soldiers who had to carry everything they owned on their backs. A few of these lightweight bricks could be easily stowed in a pack or pocket, ensuring a source of warmth was always within reach. The impact of these simple fuel blocks on health and morale was profound. The ability to boil water was a critical defense against waterborne diseases like dysentery and cholera, which were rampant in the unsanitary conditions of the front. A hot drink or a warm meal did more than just fill a soldier's stomach. It provided immense psychological comfort. In a world of cold mud, constant fear, and monotonous rations, the simple act of sipping hot, sweet tea could be a powerful reminder of civilization and home. It was a small moment of normalcy and comfort that helped to preserve a soldier's humanity and steel their resolve to keep going. Ultimately, the grease cake was more than just fuel. It was a symbol of the soldiers' agency and resilience. In a conflict where individuals often felt like powerless cogs in a vast, impersonal machine, making something so useful with their own hands was an act of defiance. It was a way of taking back a small measure of control over their environment. This ingenuity fostered a sense of shared knowledge and camaraderie, as the technique was taught from one soldier to another. The warmth from a field brick was not just physical, it was the warmth of shared cleverness, a quiet testament to the enduring spirit of survival in the face of overwhelming adversity. Looking back from our comfortable modern world, it is easy to dismiss the grease cake as a crude relic of a bygone era. We live in a time of push-button convenience, where heat and energy are available at the flick of a switch or the turn of a dial. However, to see it merely as a historical curiosity is to miss its deeper and more enduring lesson. The story of this forgotten wartime fuel is a powerful reminder of the importance of resourcefulness, adaptability, and self-reliance. It teaches us that in times of crisis, the ability to see potential in what others discard can be the key to overcoming challenges, a skill that remains profoundly relevant in the 21st century. The core principle of the grease cake, transforming waste into a valuable resource, is a lesson our consumer society is slowly having to relearn. We face modern crises of our own, from environmental challenges like resource depletion and waste management to the potential for disruptions in our complex supply chains. The mindset of the soldiers who saw fuel in their rubbish is the same mindset that drives today's innovators in recycling, upcycling, and sustainable energy. It is about looking at a problem not as an endpoint, but as an opportunity to create a clever solution with the materials at hand. This kind of thinking is essential for building a more resilient and sustainable future. On a more personal level, the story of the field brick champions the value of practical, hands-on skills. In an age of increasing specialization and digital abstraction, we have become disconnected from the basic processes of making and doing. Many people today lack the fundamental knowledge to meet their own basic needs if the systems we rely on were to fail, even temporarily. Learning simple survival skills, how to find or create shelter, purify water, or make a fire, is not about preparing for a doomsday scenario. It is about fostering confidence, independence, and a deeper connection to the physical world. It empowers us, reminding us that we are capable of solving problems with our own hands and minds. In the end, the humble grease cake is a testament to the enduring power of small ideas. It proves that innovation is not exclusive to scientists and engineers in gleaming laboratories. It can, and often does, arise from ordinary people facing extraordinary circumstances. The soldiers in the trenches were not trying to change the world. They were just trying to survive until the next sunrise. Yet, in their desperate ingenuity, they left us with a timeless lesson: that resourcefulness, creativity, and the refusal to give up are the most powerful tools we possess. The warmth from their makeshift fuel has long since faded, but the spark of their ingenuity continues to light the way.